Hey guys, this is Chris, and welcome to the Comic Cache. I've been talking about doing this podcast for a long time, ever since I started playing Arkham Asylum on stream. And now it is here. So, today's episode, we've got a fun one for you guys. Because today we are talking about a sort of an infamous comic from like the golden age of comics, and it is Batman issue number 66, specifically the story The Joker's Comedy of Errors. And I know that the people who have read that comic or have like heard of this comic before are already like, oh boy, here we go, Joker's Comedy of Errors, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna try to maintain some degree of composure throughout this episode, but don't expect much. You can already hear in my voice the cracks in my armor here. So, this was a story, like I said, that was printed in Batman issue number 66 way back in 1951. There were, I think, 3 stories in that issue, and this was one of them. Now, of course, if I were to be reading that issue directly, it would cost me hundreds of dollars. Fortunately, it was reprinted in 2008 in The Joker, The Greatest Stories Ever Told. This trade right here, it has comics featuring the Joker from across the publication history of DC, going all the way back to Batman number 1. Since I'm reading from a trade, I can't really look at the covers, although you can look it up online if you want. We start out with a splash page of Batman and Robin, and the Joker and all of his guys laughing at some of the classic mistakes of history. And the opening text reads, "You've probably committed some boners in your time. Most everybody has. History is full of the mistakes of man, some of which never could be written off, and some which boomeranged into deeds of good fortune. But only a sense of humor like the Joker's could think of translating boners into crimes." And here it is, folks. The thing that this comic is known for. This is the famous issue where everyone just says boner the whole time. So, for context, this was written in a very different time. This was written in 1951, I believe. And back then, the word boner, in addition to the more vulgar meaning that you're already thinking of, it also meant like a blunder, a mistake. Usually an embarrassing one. But I feel like Bob Kane and Bill Finger knew what they were doing. Especially when when the Crown Prince of Crookdom sets out to recreate the classic eras of history for personal gain, and in addition readies a special boner just for Batman. Like I said, there's no chance of me getting through this with a straight face. Turning the page, we get the Joker and his guys, or not planning this heist, committing this heist on where they're going into a power plant, and their plan is to steal the payroll by, like, cutting the power and stealing the money in the confusion, and then getting out before, like, the police or Batman can arrive. So they go up to the 24th floor on the elevator. His henchmen pull the fuses, cutting the lights, and then Joker's plan to escape was to, I guess, use the elevator, because he forgot that once they cut the power, that includes the elevator. So he can't use the elevator to escape like he had planned. He has to take the stairs, and that gives enough time for Batman and Robin to arrive. And in the ensuing fight, Joker is able to get away and make it back to his hideout, but he's unable to bring the money with him. So while he got away, he really failed. And the next day, the papers are having a field day with headlines like, Joker pulls boner of the year. Or, my personal favorite, chortle at Joker's boner. Here we go. Now we're in the thick of it, and we are not going to go a single page without the word boner being used at least once per page. Usually more. Laugh at my boner, will they? I'll show them how many boners the Joker can make. This emphasis on boners has given me an idea for a new adventure in crime. Gotham City will rue the day it mentioned the word boner. I kid you not, this is actual writings of Bill Finger and Bob Kane, the original creators of Batman, writing and illustrating this, by the way. And it's a whole issue of them just saying boner. It's great. It's hilarious. So Joker's plan is to recreate the famous boners of history. His words, not mine. No, technically the great boners of all time. And, commit crimes themed around them. So, his first one is he's going to recreate the scene of this battleship, the USS Missouri, that, ran itself aground in the mud. And, got stuck, and everyone was laughing at it. So what he does is he takes, the warning buoys in the Gotham River and moves them. So when this freight ship arrives, the captain would be reliant on these buoys in order to, warn him of, areas to steer clear of, because, there's mud and you'd end up beaching the ship. Because he hasn't, I guess the captain has never really had to sail in Gotham River before. And so this freight ship gets stuck, and it's carrying a bunch of diamonds. And so, as it's stuck, Joker and his henchmen steal the diamonds. Stung by his boner, Joker lashes back, loots stalled liner. So that plan goes off without a hitch. And the next boner crime that the Joker commits is based on the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which he describes as one of the great architectural boners in history. Faulty foundation work and miscalculations almost caused it to topple over. So, his plan to recreate the Leaning Tower of Pisa as a crime is, apparently there's this rich guy in Gotham, this oil magnate, whose estate is this castle that was transplanted stone by stone from Europe. And he's having, this bell tower added in. And so they, dig underneath it to mess up the foundation. So that the next time it rains, because, it's Gotham, it's always raining in Gotham. The rain, causes the foundation to, give way, causing it to lean, allowing Joker and his guys a route over the wall of this guy's estate. See, this guy is always bragged about how his estate was impenetrable, but he never counted on the Joker or his boner crimes. And so, the next day, once again, the newspapers have a bunch of headlines about the Joker staging another boner crime. And Batman and Robin apparently investigated the crime scene in the aftermath to try to find a clue that would lead them to the Joker's hideout, or at least try to figure out what the Joker's gonna do next. Batman also mentions to Robin in passing that they're gonna have to, that in like a few days they have to, or next month they have to fly over to the coast to testify at presumably a trial of this criminal that they caught. And all of a sudden, the radio in Wayne Manor cuts out, and the Joker comes on the radio, bragging about his boner crimes. They try to trace the radio signal back to its source, hoping that maybe that can lead them to his hideout, but to no avail. But they've got bigger problems all of a sudden, because Joker mentions that soon Batman will make the boner of the year, which prompts Robin to ask, "What does he mean, Bruce? How can he force you into a boner?" "I don't know, but whatever it isn't good, that's for sure." And so they decide to, in order to try to figure out what the Joker's next scheme is gonna be, they do research on the great boners of all time, but we get to see what his next boner crime is gonna be. He's going to stage a jailbreak themed around the escape of John Dillinger, which, for those of you who don't know, John Dillinger was like this old, like, I think like Prohibition era gangster who famously escaped from prison at one point by intimidating the guard using a gun that he had carved out of wood. The ultimate bluff. And the Joker says that the guard who fell for that committed a glaring boner. And so he has made a similar wooden gun to smuggle into one of his own henchmen. One of his guys asks, like, I mean, it's a neat gimmick, but why not just smuggle in a real gun? Why take any chances? And Joker explains that a real gun would never get past the prison's metal detectors. We do see that he has a bit of a contingency plan for this, where the guy who he smuggled the gun in for, like, is pointing the wooden gun at the boss, or at the, not the boss, the guard. "I'm telling you, this gap means business. Now give me the keys." And the guards just, like, kind of laughs off the threat of, like, nobody could have smuggled a real gun in here. You're probably using that old Dillinger ruse. It's a wooden gun, I'm sure. And then he bangs the gun against the bars. He's like, "Does this sound like wood?" But what he's actually doing, and this is brilliant. So this is a really neat little trick. He actually has a ring on that the guard doesn't see because he has it, like, obscured by the bar. So when he's knocking on the wood, the sound is actually not the gun hitting the bars like the guard is made to think, but the ring. So it is the sound of, like, metal on metal. So the guard is, like, freaks out and is like, "Oh my gosh, it is a real gun!" And then the next day, Batman and Robin are meeting with Commissioner Gordon, you know, like they tend to do. And Gordon says, like, "We have to stop the Joker. These boner crimes are making us look bad. And I'm worried about the boner he's readying for you." Sorry, I can't. Like I said, I feel like some of these lines work way too well with the more modern definition of the word to be an accident. Bill Finger knew what he was doing. Anyway. Sorry. Anyway, Batman reassures the commissioner that, like, they've always been able to outguess the Joker in the past, and he's sure they'll catch him soon. And sure enough, Batman does have an idea as to what the Joker's next plan is gonna be. They're filming a new movie based around, like, the Trojan War, complete with a replica of the Trojan horse. As you probably know, the Greeks built the wooden horse and presented it as, like, presumably a gift to the Trojans, but they were hiding inside of it, and the Trojans made the boner of bringing the thing inside with the Greeks in, and that allowed them to open the gates and let the rest of the Greeks in, and they attacked Troy. And so Bruce figures that the Joker's probably going to use that somehow for a crime. And sure enough, he's right. The Joker is planning on hiding inside of the horse, and the horse is being like stored inside of like a warehouse that also has a bunch of like a fortune in exotic furs. And so the plan is to use that to get into the warehouse, steal the furs, and then when they bring it back out for filming, they can get away. So they go to the movie set and they blend in with the extras because they're. This is a thing in movies. I feel like is like some movies have like hundreds of extras. They're not gonna notice like the Joker and his guys in costume. And so at night they climb into the horse and they do steal the furs, but the next morning when they're unloading it from the warehouse, Batman and Robin tell like the guys who are bringing it out, like, hold on, check the inside of it. And one of the guys is like, what? Who would be in here, Batman? This is literally just a prop for a movie. But, of course, as we know, the Joker and his guys are inside, so they try to, like, climb at the top. And obviously a fight ensues. And the Joker does get away again. But like what we saw with the power company, he has to like leave the loop behind to do it. And so later the news are reporting on like, and the Joker's newest boner crime was foiled by the alert action of Batman and Robin. Bah! Confound that Batman! It is well that I'm ready to trick him into his boner! Then the tables will be turned! And so now we get to see the thing that this has all been like leading up to is the boner crime that the Joker's going to use to turn Batman into a laughingstock. And it's honestly a really clever one. So, like I mentioned before, Batman and Robin are going to have to like fly out of state to go testify at a trial. What the Joker's planning to do is send out a signal to tamper with the Batplane's like autopilot system to make him fly in the wrong direction, making him like the next Wrong Way Corrigan. Which, if you don't know, Douglas Corrigan was flying from, I think, Long Beach, California to like New York. But then he made that trip no problem. But then on what was supposed to be his return trip to Long Beach, he instead landed in, I think, Ireland, giving him the name Wrong Way Corrigan. And so he's planning to make Batman do the same thing. And so Batman and Robin fly out, and it is like stormy, so, and like really cloudy, like bad weather for flying. So they're gonna have to use the autopilot. But they, instead of landing on wherever they were supposed to, they end up flying to England. And by the time they get back, the papers are already having a field day with this. Like, Wrong Way Batman! Batman's greatest boner! And the Joker's, like, celebrating, presumably, what he figures will be, like, the downfall of Batman, because now he's, like, been discredited, and who's gonna trust the guy who can't fly in the right direction to stop criminals? And sure enough, like, even when he lands back in Gotham, everyone's, like, trying to get his side of the story, and be like, what the heck happened? How did you end up flying to England? But as the Joker is holding like a party with his henchmen in celebration to the end of Batman, Robin, and the police bust down the door, and Joker's like confused, like, how did you find me? To which Batman explains, you committed a boner, Joker. You were so busy forcing me into a boner, you forgot you were committing one yourself. So, basically, Batman and Robin knew that the Joker was tampering with the autopilot for the Batplane, and they could have shaken that off if they wanted to, but they let it happen so that they could trace the signal to his hideout, like they tried to do with the radio. And so the Joker gets locked up in prison, and the mayor of Gotham apologizes on behalf of the city and the nation, saying that the greatest boner of all is losing faith in Batman. To which Batman responds, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's hope we've the last of things like boners and Jokers. Now, this comic is hilarious. Like, what more is there to say, honestly? I feel like on top of the humor, though, of just like, oh, haha, boners, there's also a bit of cosmic humor there. See, this comic is very focused on, like, the great boners of history. And in my opinion, I feel like by writing this comic, Bill Finger committed one of the greatest boners of comic book history. And again, I don't know whether this was intentional or not. I feel like it could have been. Like, it could have been an intended thing. But honestly, we'll probably never know. And then DC doubled down on this boner by reprinting it in a time where that word did not have that same meaning anymore. I would have figured that DC would have tried to bury this. Although maybe they figured that, people like me who are mentally 12 would buy it. But honestly, I hope you enjoyed this. I can't recommend this trade enough. Like, it has some really good stories in it. And honestly, it's almost worth the price just for that story. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this video and this hilarious journey into an old issue of Batman. If you liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe. All of those things really do help the channel grow. If you have a comic that you think it would be fun for me to go over on this podcast, you can also comment that. Like, I would be happy to get you guys' recommendations. And other than that, I just hope that you all have a great rest of your day. See ya.